Hi, second graders. Guess what? Today we are going to go over your Unit 7 math review. So don't watch this until you have it done. And once you have it done, then watch this video and I'm going to go over it with you. And the other thing is this is going to be the last video because tomorrow is your Unit 7 test. And after your Unit 7 test, you're all done. So I've loved making these videos for you. I hope you've been watching them and practicing your math this way too. So here we go. Again, if you don't have it, stop the video and get it done and then come back to the video. So we're going to start with number 1. It says 2 teams are playing basketball addition. Here are their scores for the first half. There's the Red Monsters that had 11, 10, 8, and 5. Then the Blue Arrows had 19, 3, 17, and 2. So we talked about this idea of adding more than 2 addends. Remember, when you add numbers together, the numbers you add are called the addends. So for the Red Monsters, they had 11 plus 10 plus 8 plus 5, and you had to figure out the total to that. We talked about trying to group numbers together that make sense together. I don't really see anything that works super well, so I'm just going to start in order and I'm going to do 11 plus 10. I know 10 plus 10 is 20, so 11 plus 10 is 21. And then I'm going to go right next to add the 8, and when I add 21 plus 8, I get 29. Then I'm going to do 29 plus 5, and I get 34. Okay, so the score for the Red Monsters was 34 points. Then we had the Blue Arrows, and the Blue Arrows scored 19 plus 3 plus 17 plus 2. When I look at the score for the Blue Arrows, I see 17 and 3 as an easy combination, because I know that makes 20. So I'm going to start there, because the order doesn't matter when you add, as long as you add all the numbers. So I'm going to start there and do the 20. And then I'm going to add the 19, because I know 20 plus 20 is 40. And since this is 1 less, my answer should be 1 less. So I know 20 plus 19 is 39. So now I have those 3 added. And then I've got the 2 left, so I do 39, 40, 41. So the total score for the Blue Arrows was 41. And it says which team is winning at halftime, so I write in there the Blue Arrows. So just remember when you're doing your test tomorrow that when you're doing more than 1 addend, the idea is to look for easy combinations. Make sure you add everything up, and you can always double check. Okay? Now, moving down here, this one says to write these numbers in expanded form. And remember, when you expand something, think of a rubber band. When you expand it, right, you stretch it out. So that's what we're doing with 89. We think of 89 and we think it's 80 plus 9 because we've got the 8 tens and the 9 ones. So for that one, you should have written 80 plus 9. Now on the next one, the 165, same thing. We look at each number individually. So I look at the 1. It's in the hundreds. So that's 100. Then I look at the 6. It's in the tens place. 6 tens is 60. Then I look at the 5 in the ones place, and 5 ones is just 5. So for that, you should have 100 plus 60 plus 5. So check yours and see. And then we'll go on to the next one. On the next one, you had to fill in the missing numbers, right? We're talking right over here. So when you're doing this, you have to think to yourself, 34, how many more to get to 40? You can use your number grid, you can use your fingers, you can use facts that you already know. So starting with 34, getting up to 40, I'm not sure of that one, so I'm just going to count it up. I'm going to start at 34 and count 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And I added 6. So I'm going to pop the 6 right in there. The next one is 100 is equal to 97 plus what? So it's written a little different where they put the 100 as the answer. They want to know 97 plus how many equals the 100. Again, 97, I think it's 3. I'm just going to double check. 97, 98, 99, 100, and it is 3. The third one is what plus 55 equals 60. Hey, I know that because I know counting by fives. I know 55, 60, right? So when I'm counting by fives, I go 55, 60, 65, 70. So I know 55, I have to add 5 to get it to 60. Okay, last one, 23 plus what equals 30. Again, that's written a little bit different, so you have to watch. Here's your equal sign right here. So it's saying 30 is equal to what plus 23. So again, I'm just going to count on my fingers just to be sure. I'm at 23 and I count 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and I counted on 7 more. So 7 plus 23 equals 30. Okay, alrighty, moving on. Now this one was interesting. It was about the measuring tools and units. So we talked about using a ruler, that would be a measuring tool. We talked about using a yardstick, that's a measuring tool. We talked about how if we added 9 centimeters onto the yardstick, we'd have a meter stick. We could use that as a tool. So those are what we're referring to when we say measuring tools, not a personal reference, like measuring with people like we did that one time, or measuring with your thumb. Those are personal references. We don't want to use those. When we're talking about a tool, we're talking about an actual measuring tool that is standard, a standard unit to everyone. So it says, what measuring tool would you use to find the length of a notebook? So I have to think, okay, about how big would it be? If I think about measuring this notebook, I know that this measuring tool is way too big. It's way bigger than that. So I'm going to use a ruler. So I'm going to write down ruler. And explaining my choice, I'm going to say a ruler can measure in inches. The notebook is about the size of the ruler. So when you're choosing your tool, you don't want to choose a tool that's way a lot bigger, or you don't want to choose a unit that's way a lot smaller, okay? So then the second part of this question says, what unit would you use when measuring the length of the notebook? So again, I think of this. I can think of my personal reference units and think, okay, if I was doing centimeters, I would do it like that because my pinky is about as wide as a centimeter. It might be a little too small. I can think of meters, but I know this is way bigger than that. So I think I'll go with using the ruler, but I will use inches to measure it, okay? And when I measure it, I get about 8.5 inches. So I'm going to say the unit that I would use is inches. And then my Y is going to be a centimeter is too small. A meter is too big. An inch is just right. Kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? And she had the bed that was too hard, the bed that was too soft, and the bed that was just right. Same thing. A centimeter would be a little bit too small. A meter stick or a yardstick would be too big. So the inch unit is the just right, okay? So I wrote that. You can, I mean, your answer doesn't have to be exactly this, but something similar. You can see what I wrote. A centimeter is too small, a meter is too big, an inch is just right. Okay, we're gonna go on to page 2. If you wanna pause and write your answer for that, if you didn't have it, you can do that. There's more measuring on the second page. So you have this banana. And now on this page, it wants you to use your personal reference tool to do some estimating. It says estimate and then measure the length of the picture in inches and centimeters. So I'm gonna think about this banana. It wants inches and centimeters. I have to estimate both, and then I have to actually measure. So I'm gonna use my personal reference. Like I told you, for a centimeter is about as wide as my pinky. So I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so when I use my personal reference and I just move my pinky along and keep counting, I got 14. So my estimate for centimeters is 14. And now I also have to estimate inches. So when I'm estimating inches, I know that it's about my thumb. So I'm going to do the same thing and kind of just do that and move it along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm estimating 5 inches and 14 centimeters. And then I do the actual measuring. So when you're measuring, make sure that you're lining up the beginning or the start of what you're measuring at the start of your ruler, like that. See where the banana is? The beginning is lined up with there. And then I measure and I can see, oh, my estimate in, holy moly, my estimate in centimeters was really close. I'm getting 15 for my actual, and my estimate was 14. Then I switch the ruler over and I measure in inches, and I was pretty close there too. It was 6. So when I estimated, I got 5 and 14. When I did the actual, I got 6 and 15. That tells me that my personal reference unit is fairly accurate, okay? The next question is a good one, and I hope you thought about this. It says, did you get a smaller number when you measured in inches or centimeters? So when you measured in inches, you got 6. When you measured in centimeters, you got 15. So you got a smaller number when you measured in inches. But then the important part of that question is the why. Why did you get a smaller number when you measured in inches? So I'm going to say because I want to answer in a full sentence. I got a smaller number in inches because, we're going to finish that up in a second, but I got a smaller number in inches because when you look at your ruler, boys and girls, an inch unit is bigger. So your number is going to be smaller, or your answer, right? The smaller the unit, the more you're going to get. Okay, so I got a smaller number in inches because it is a larger unit than centimeters. Okay, when your unit is larger, your answer is smaller. It's kind of the opposite. All right, last one. This was doing the line plot, which you did last week, making a line plot. So when you're making a line plot, you're putting X's to represent your data above the correct number. So on this one, we had the number of siblings in room 12. And we take this graph and we see 1 here, 4 tallies, and then the actual number is 4. Then then 2 siblings. Oh, this is a little bit backwards, I'm sorry. All right, so we go to